if you start learning how to use Claude Cowork and code and all those things, it's not that complicated. Spend a little bit of time. I'm telling you guys, it will make you guys so much more productive. It'll benefit you guys. Do it. Cool? All right. So last week we looked at resumes and how to write a good resume. And we learned that the resume is actually not about you at all. It's about the person reading the resume. And we learned that the most important thing about that resume is what? Proving that you can what? Solve their problem, right? And so today we're going to assume that you wrote an epic resume and you got the interview. So what do you do next? That's what today is going to be about, is what to do before, during, and after the interview to make sure that you get the job. Got it? And so there's a ton of material out there on interviewing. You can do week-long seminars. You can do, you can spend months practicing interview techniques. So to think that we're going to get it all done tonight, it's just not realistic. It's physically impossible. We're going to cover like the main bases to get you guys solid in this area, okay? All right, so the big question for tonight is, and let's see if you guys can get it this time, is what is the number one factor, the one thing that determines whether you're going to get the job after an interview? Serge. If they can stand you is what Serge said. Not really, but good try. Melissa? Yeah, what's the one thing that you could do before, during, or after the interview that makes sure that you're going to get the job or gets you really confident that you're going to get the job? Your appearance. Okay, your appearance. Good guess. Anybody else? Drum roll. What is it? Acting like you're already a part of the team. That's good. All good things. Give me the drum roll. Come on. It's preparation. Preparation is the number one factor that determines whether you're going to get the job. And so you could be the best interviewer, but if I prepare like I prepare and you guys go and wing it, I'm going to get the job. It's that simple. You have to be prepared. And we covered a whole night on preparation already, so you guys are good in that area. So we're going to jump right in. Raise your hands if you've had like a serious interview. I'm talking about for a job that requires technical skills or you really wanted that job. A few people. That's good. So you know then that the two most important things that the interviewer is trying to answer are the following. Can you do the job and do they want you on the team? The entire time you're interviewing, from the minute you get in that building to the minute you leave, you have to keep that in mind. Write those things down. Can you do the job? And do they want you on the team? Those are the two things that you need to prove during the interview process. And what's interesting is most people will obsess over the first thing. They're going to do everything they can to prove that they can do the job. And they'll recount all of their experiences and build themselves up, and they'll prove that part. But they'll forget about the second part. And I promise you that second question of, do we actually want them on the team, is far more important than the first. When I would interview for people in finance, marketing, product development, whatever, I could find so many people that had the technical skill for that job, but that I just couldn't see bringing them to a team lunch or putting them in front of a client. Does that make sense? If you can prove that you belong on that team and that they're comfortable bringing you in front of a client or hanging out with you after work, you're so much closer to getting that job. Amen? Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about preparation. There's two things you need to do to prepare. Everybody say research and rehearse. And so the research part is not that complicated. I'm going to give you all of the answers here. And so the first thing that you need to do is know what the company does. Know how they make money. Know if it's a product or a service, a combination of both. What business units do they have? Is it a conglomerate? Know everything there is to know about that company. Is there anything recent about them in the news? Know that. If you're interviewing at SpaceX, know everything there is to know about SpaceX, right? Know who the leadership structure is. Know who the CEO is. Who's the hiring manager? Who's going to be the interviewer? What school did they go to? Go on their LinkedIn profile, get that information, and then get a sense for what their culture is like. All of this is readily available. You can go online, you can use AI, and you can figure all this stuff out. And then have two questions that you can ask them at the end of the interview. Whenever they're finished, be like, hey, I have a couple of questions if you wouldn't mind. Have those 2 questions ready. And if you can't come up with a couple, I have some really good ones that I promise you are going to impress the interviewer. Okay, next up, study the job posting. Learn every single required skill and responsibility. And then think about how well your experiences lend themselves to what those skills are for the job, that are the required skills for the job. Does that make sense? Understand if there are certifications, degrees, different things that are going to be needed for that job. That's it. That's what you need to research. Basic stuff. Spend the time doing it. I promise you it will help you. All right, so now that you've gone through the research part, what you're going to do is rehearse. And so over the next couple minutes, I want to go through, call it five common interview questions that are almost certainly going to be a part of that interview. They're really, really common, and there's so many questions out there, guys. Please spend time going through more. I'm telling you, you go through this, like repeat it a few times, repeat it for hours, right? And then even a year later, these things will still be in you when you're ready for an interview. Okay, so if you can put up some slides, Anthony, that'd be great. The first question that we're going to attack is the tell me about yourself question, which isn't even a question, it's a statement, right? But you're going to get told to do that in the interview. 99.99% guarantee it. And so what the question is really asking is, can you give the interviewer some highlights? Can you organize your thoughts in a good fashion? And then can you communicate your thoughts well? That's what they're really trying to get at. And what people often do, which is a mistake, is that when they get this question, tell me about yourself, they start off with personal stuff. They can say, hey, I was born in Chicago, 1987. I'm an 80s kid. And then they start going through, I got married at this time. Nobody cares. The interviewer doesn't know you. They don't care. I'm just being real, right? They don't care. So what you need to do, the correct approach is to shift this. Tell them about your present. And when I say that, I mean your professional present. Like, what's your current role? Why are you good at it? What are the skills that you carry and that make you successful in that role? Then you shift to the past. Then you go and you tell them all of the different experiences that you've had in your past that can solve their problem. Always remember that part. Then you shift to the future and you say, hey, in the future, I see myself working at a company like this company where I have a mutually beneficial relationship with that company, and I'm going to grow that company by doing X, Y, and Z, implementing systems, leading teams, doing whatever. And by the way, I expect to be rewarded for that, and the company is going to help me grow. I hope that answers your question. So you start with your present, shift to your past, jump to the future. Forget the personal stuff. Keep that out. Make sense? Next question. What's your greatest weakness? Who has been asked that during an interview? A lot of people. It is a garbage question. That question should never be asked. I never ask it in an interview because it never gets you an answer. People lie, right? People almost always lie, but you almost certainly will get asked that question. And here are some really cliche answers. Please never, ever do this. I've heard stuff like, I work too hard. No, you don't. I'm a perfectionist. No, you're not. I care too much. You don't care, right? But these are the answers that people will give. What they're trying to do is they're trying to take a strength and then mask it as a weakness, and it comes across as super fake. Do not do it. People will see right through it. If an interviewer sees somebody do that, and they're a pretty good interviewer, they're going to throw that resume. You're not going to get a call back. Okay? So avoid that at all costs. The correct approach to that question is to be vulnerable. Actually share a real weakness, but use wisdom here, right? So I'll give you an example. Like if you're applying for an IT analyst position or let's go with that. An IT analyst position, and you say, I'm just really bad at analysis, right? You're not going to get, so use wisdom, be vulnerable, but be smart. And so something along the lines of like, hey, I used to struggle with sharing insights with senior leadership. For whatever reason, it would make me a little bit nervous, and I just had a tendency to shy away from it. But what I did was I forced myself to, in meetings, jump in and be the first person to share, updates, and that helped me kind of open up, and now I'm really good at it. I'm still getting better, but something along those lines. Vulnerable. It's not wrecking your prospects of getting the job. It might not be a core requirement for it. Do that. But be real. it'll hit home with the interviewer, and they're going to be, okay, this person can actually share something and be vulnerable and be real. Make sense? Yeah. Next question. Why should we hire you? So this question is really asking, have you been listening? Do you understand the problem that we have? Do you understand what we're trying to accomplish by filling this position? What is it that we need? Have you been listening to what I've been sharing with you? And what I would catch most people do when they're not listening during the interview, and I'm sharing the stuff that we're dealing with as a company, what they'll do is they're just going to regurgitate, and this is the incorrect approach, they're going to regurgitate all the stuff about themselves that makes them feel good, or that, and so effectively what they're doing is throwing a bunch of darts at the dartboard and hoping one of those hits the bullseye. But we don't need to know everything. The interviewer doesn't need to know every single thing that you're good at. Okay, why should we hire you? Because I'm a fast learner, I can do this. Got it. But did you listen to my problem? How can you solve that issue? So what you need to do is pick the one thing that you heard that stood out to you as an issue and focus on that. So hopefully at this point in the conversation with the interviewer, they've given you some clues as to what they need you to help them with. So you'll share something like, well, you mentioned that one of your core challenges was having this process that's a little bit messy when you're going from a customer request to the order fulfillment. In my last role, I did this thing where I implemented this new system using AI tools, and it solved the issue. It was really similar to what you have going on. I'm sure I can do it for the next company I work for, and I'm hoping it's this one. Something along those lines. You're solving their problem. You're being specific. You don't just start shooting out different characteristics and qualities that you have. Another example would be, hey, you mentioned that turnover has been pretty rough. I've been at my last job for 4 years, and I've been through the thick, the thin, the easy, the hard. I've been there for a long time. And I'm not a person that just leaves when stuff gets a little difficult. I value loyalty, and the company that I choose to work for next, I'm going to be there for the long haul. Something like that. It solves their issue. Does that make sense? Tracking? Yeah. All right, next question. Tell me about a time that you failed. And here, what the interviewer is trying to figure out is, can you own your mistakes? Right? They don't really need to know like a serious time that you failed. What they're trying to get at is, can you admit that you failed at something, and can you own it? Does that make sense? So common mistakes here are, well, I can't really think of a time that I made a big mistake, right? Or blaming, this is a big red flag, blaming your team, your boss, or whatever for that issue. So saying, yeah, I messed this up. We lost, we had a revenue dip of about 10% because of it, but man, if only I had the right team with me at the time, or if only my boss was supporting me the way that he should have been supporting me. Red flags, you will not get the job. So how do you answer that question correctly? The correct approach is to pick a real, medium-sized issue or mistake, and then be honest about it. So let me try to give you an example. So I'll give one that I made, a big mistake. So I had a role, this is years ago, and it was as a product line director for the hygiene business at my company. And fresh into the job, and so when you're fresh into a new role, you try to prove yourself, like as fast as you can, make an impact, right? Like, let's get it done. So I went in guns blazing, and there was a project that was stalled for like a year, and it just was going nowhere. And it was a big project with a big customer, Clorox, right? And I needed to make this thing happen. So the engineering team couldn't get the product specifications that we needed. So I went in there, and this is not the correct, this is before like I knew Jesus. And I applied so much pressure to the point where I said, listen, if it doesn't get resolved in 2 weeks, I will fire people. I will let you go. I don't care if it takes you being there at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You need to be there over the next 2 weeks, and you need to get it done. So I did that. Guess what answer I got? Oh, it's finished. Immediately, it's finished. We got it done within a week. We're there. We hit all the specifications. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I applied so much pressure that I got the yes. That product was trash, so we shipped it to Clorox. It was a whole thing. We lost a ton of money, and we had to do a ton of rework. So what did I learn? Listen to your team. I'm not a chemical engineer, right? Like, I'm a finance guy. And so listen to what your team is telling you, right? You cannot force a yes out of your team. Never made that mistake again. And I've shared that during interviews. Same company, just like promotional interview things. And that's the way that you need to approach it. Be vulnerable, be real. They'll appreciate that. The interviewer will appreciate it. Amen? All right. The last question you typically will get in an interview, if you want to go to that slide, is, do you have any questions for me? Or do you have any questions for us? And what they want to know here is, do you just want to finish this interview and go home? Are you interested in the company? Do you feel like you're already a part of the team? Express yourself. It's kind of an opportunity to show like, hey, if they really liked you, it's an opportunity for you to share that you really like them. Okay, so the worst answers to this question are, nope, I'm good. Or, yeah, what's the salary expectation? Or what's your vacation policy? Or when can I start? Even joking, saying, when can I start? That's not something that you joke with at the end of an interview. It doesn't matter if you know them, don't say it. The correct approach is to have 2 prepared questions and then maybe some follow-ups that express that you are interested, right? And so really good questions that you can ask the interviewer, write these down, is what does success look like in the first 90 days? Walk me through what that looks like in the first 90 days. They're going to be like, all right, that's a pretty good question. Another good question is, when you think about the top performers in this role or similar roles, what sets them apart? What you're telling the interviewer is, okay, I'm interested, I do like the job, I'm interested enough to where I want to know how to do it really well, and if you've had really good performers, tell me what they're doing differently so that I can do that and be a top performer for you. Make sense? And if you're at this part of the interview and you feel like you messed something up, like, man, I answered that 2 questions ago, I answered that really roughly, it wasn't good, and you feel like they might not be giving you the job, only then can you ask this question. And it's a bold question, so don't say it's shaky. Say, hey, listen, is there anything about my background that gives you hesitation? Or is there anything that I shared with you during the interview that gives you hesitation about hiring me? Good eye contact, say it like that, it's bold, right? Only ask that if you've kind of messed up in the interview, and they'll share with you. It will be an opportunity to recover where there might have been some confusion. Got it? Ask those questions. All right, other tips before we move on to the next section, and I'll try to be a little bit quick here. Be prepared for the what are your strengths question. We're not going to get into how to answer that one, but be prepared with answers for that. What are your strengths? Have 2 to 3 scenarios that you can walk them through that show how you're going to address and fix that problem that they have. And then to answer that question of, do we want you on the team? Like, can we see you as part of the team? The way that you convey that is you incorporate stories. So you incorporate stories of how you had a really strong relationship with your team and with your boss or with your bosses during the answers that you're giving. So you're going to start off some of your answers with, my boss and I were at lunch together one time, or we were having a team lunch one time, or I was at a meeting with a couple of clients and some of my team members. You want them to visualize you doing something fun, having a good time, having a good relationship with your team so that they can visualize you in that same position at their company. If they can visualize you as part of their team with a client, with customers and that kind of thing, then it's going to be so much easier for them to say yes to your resume and hire you. That's how you do that part. Got it? Okay. Everything that we've discussed so far is on the preparation side that happens before the interview. This next part is going to be everything that happens the day of. So the first thing on the day of, make sure to dress appropriately. And I'll give the guys the tips, right? Like, if it's a girl, sorry, I can't help you. Never really had to deal with that. Dr. Tracy is amazing at all this stuff, and she'll guide you on how to dress appropriately for an interview if you're a girl. But for the guys, at a minimum, a button-up and a tie, unless they explicitly tell you to do something different. I've had people ask me at the gym, hey, how should I dress for the interview? Please don't come in a suit. It's a gym, right? Jeans, workout clothing is totally fine. But only if they explicitly tell you. If it's like a corporate interview or, an interview at, for Pure Academy even, dress up. Take it serious. Got it? Arrive 10 minutes early, but don't be weird and show up like 20, 30 minutes early, because then you put people in weird positions where they have to leave a meeting early to go address you. Don't do that. 10 minutes early, nothing more than that. Greet every person that you encounter that day with a smile. Make sure you greet the receptionist with a smile. I promise you the receptionist has a lot more pull and influence in that company than you think. Everybody talks to the receptionist. They're everybody's friend. That's why they're the receptionist. They are influential. Okay, so when you greet them, be super nice to them. And I'll share another important piece about that here in a second. Just remind yourself, like, if you're that person that has like a serious case of the RBF, right, and you just look like you're angry all the time, get rid of that for the day. Pray about it. Have the Holy Spirit help you smile a little bit more that day. I'm telling you, that's going to be your ticket to winning. Talk like a professional. No slang, no filler words. You're not going to be using things like, you know what I mean? No, I don't know what you mean. Please explain yourself. Don't use those phrases. Don't ramble. Be okay with silence. When you answer the question, stop. Be fine with a little bit of silence. They're probably processing your answer, thinking of the next question that they want to ask or a follow-up. Be fine with silence. It's totally fine in an interview. Listen before you answer. Okay, so one of the worst things as an interviewer is you look them dead in the eye, you're looking at their face, and then you ask them a question, and they look at you, and then they respond with, hey, can you repeat the question? And you're like, what just happened? And so listen before you answer. If you have a tendency to sweat when you're nervous, take a handkerchief. It's so weird when somebody's sitting there. Being nervous at an interview is not out of this world. It's totally normal. Like, if it's a good interviewer, they're going to know that people stress a little bit during an interview, and they're going to be okay with it. They're not going to want to lose a good candidate just because they're nervous. So they'll try to calm you down. They'll say things like, hey, we're going to keep it casual, right? Don't even sweat it. We're just going to have a conversation. So, what's that?
Don't sweat it.
Yeah, don't sweat it. And then you're sweating bullets, right? Take the handkerchief. If you don't know the answer to something, don't lie. Don't make stuff up. It's super common. Most people will make some stuff up. The best response that I think I've heard in an interview was when somebody didn't know the answer. And so I remember asking this kid, I don't even remember what role it was for. His name was Joe. And I'm interviewing him, and I threw something way out of left field, like has nothing to do with the role, just to see what the heck he would say. And he paused for a second, and he goes, man, I don't have the slightest idea, but you know what? Here's how I would find out. And then he proceeded to tell me exactly what he would do to find the answer. And I'm like, I'm hiring him because he's resourceful. It proves that he's resourceful. He can go and dig things up and figure things out and get it done. And he was very resourceful. He was very good. So if you don't know the answer, steal that. Hey, you know what? I genuinely don't know, but here's how I would figure it out, and then proceed to say how you would figure it out. All right, a couple more tips. Eat well before the interview. Some interviews can go from just, hey, you're going to talk to one person, and they become a marathon because they throw you into the second round, third round, fourth round, and then you get the job. So you might not eat for some time, and be okay with that. I'm not going to get into anything technical because I can't really help with the technical side of stuff. So if you're applying for a coding job at Google, I just don't know how that's going to go. So practice the technical questions. Ask every interviewer for their business card. And I'll give you the reason why here in a second. Before you leave, I'm going to close here in a second, make sure you go back to the receptionist. Very few people do this. I'm telling you, it will set you apart. Go back to the receptionist and say, hey, I just want to say thank you for making me feel so welcome. I really appreciate your time. Have a blessed day. I promise you that receptionist, he or she, are going to go back to the hiring manager and say, hey, I don't know who you interviewed or what candidates you had, but that last person, they were awesome. You should hire them. I'm telling you, go back and do that, and your chances of getting the job are going to go up a ton. All right, send a thank you email a couple hours after you finish the interview process, definitely within 24 hours, to every person that interviewed you or that you met. Make sense? Easy stuff. And then don't follow up a ton. Follow up one time after, like a week after the interview, and that's it. And if you don't get a response after that, they've moved on, you need to move on. It's that simple. Cool? There's so much more, guys, that we can cover, but in the interest of time, we got to wrap up. Ask me whatever questions you have whenever you guys want. Ask Dr. Tracy. She's amazing at this stuff too. And that's all I got for you. Love you guys. All right, welcome Pastor Chris as he comes up.